to the Teams and Power Platform session. My name is Michelle, and I'm a technical specialist for the Power Platform. Today, I'd like to walk through a couple ways that you can customize and enrich your Microsoft Teams experience with the low-code tools of the Power Platform. Sounds interesting, right? So let us switch through our slides and we can begin. Okay. So today, I'll be focusing on 3 of such integrations: the embedding of custom applications to Teams, posting to Teams, and the introduction of chatbots to Teams. But before I dive into Teams and Power Platform and what that integration can achieve, I want to first take a step back and set the stage of why I believe these tools belong together. We all know from experience that there is absolutely nothing worse than having to switch between applications as we're working. And usually, just when you need them the most, those URLs that you have bookmarked or that file that you need have a tendency of disappearing. Now, not only does this add time to your work, it also takes away our ability to focus on the task at hand. But what if we can take a bunch of different tools and put them together? The partner tools, the partner apps that you use and love, your business processes, your line of business apps, all there alongside your chats and your meetings. This is what we want to achieve with the Microsoft Teams. And on top of your many tools and third-party apps that are currently already on Teams, I want to show you how a suite of low-code business application tools, known collectively as the Power Platform, can be introduced to enhance your experience. Now, these tools are displayed on the bottom of the screen, and from left to right, they are the Power BI, which is a tool you might be familiar with that allows you to create interactive dashboards on top of your data. The Power Apps, which is a way for you to create applications, Power Automate, which is a way for you to define workflows, and Power Virtual Agent, our newest addition to the family, which allows you to create low-code chatbots. Now you might be thinking, if I already have this many apps on the Teams platform, why do I still need to consider Power Platform? The reason, or the way I would like to think about this, is that you have all these apps, but they do not solve your business problem 100%. Now, if you normally go about this, you might need to direct a team of developers to write up code for you, to build out your apps and build up your workflows for you. But that takes a lot of investment, and not a lot of times we have all those resources. So with Power Platform, a set of low-code tools, you as a Power user are able to create those dashboards, those apps, those workflows, and those chatbots that you need. And you can pick up the skill set relatively quickly, and you can create these things for you. And after you've created them, you can easily deploy them onto Microsoft Teams, so your other teammates can also make use of these things that you've created, and you can fill the gap between what your business needs and what is currently out there. So this is what I like to think of as the positioning of the Power Platform. So now that we have that idea in mind, why don't we start with discussing the embedding of custom apps into Microsoft Teams? So when I say custom apps, I'm referring to Power Apps. It's a way for you to make applications that you can access through the PC and also through your mobile. As you can see from the recording on the right, the development process of a Power App involves point-and-click UI design. So you see me drag a button out, and also galleries and images and checkboxes, whatnot. And aside from those point-and-click UI design, you also have simple expressions to dictate the logic and behaviors. So you see me clicking now on a particular button and going to the property pane, scrolling down and searching for a property that I want to change. For instance, the text. And I'm giving it a simple expression that's going to tell the app what my text is going to be. I can also change things like display mode. So you see me typing now on screen. Display mode is now depending on whether I have more than one column row selected. So this is what the simple expression is doing. But regardless of what the expression is doing on screen, I want you to compare this point-and-click experience with the traditional full-fledged coding experience of app development. You could see that this requires less effort, and it's also relatively easier to pick up for people even with no professional programming training. So as a Power user, you're able to create these apps, and you can also connect from these apps to different data sources. We currently have 300 of those. So you could begin to think of the multitudes of things that you could build. So you could build anything from simple forms to from frontline inspection and photo taking apps that might be a little bit more complex to the full-fledged line of business apps. So things like you have a front-end app, you have a back-end app that does a lot of coordination. There's things you could also consider with this platform. But after you have created those apps, you are able to put those apps into teams. So you see on screen that I have a team called customer accounts. And inside of this account for this client, I have this app for the estimator. So as a colleague in this customer account team, I want to be able to submit an estimation for this client. But usually I might find myself toggling between different Excels that contains information of this account and also different web portals that allows me to create such a estimation form and then sending it out to my teammates. But now, because I can have this app inside of my teams, all of my teammates are able to just click onto this tab and access this app. And all of us, when we've submitted records on this app, it's going to all sit on the same data location. So we're all going to be up to date with newest updates of our business. In this session, however, I don't want to go into details of how to create a Power App, but instead I want to focus on how the Power Apps that you have created can be consumed in the context of Microsoft Teams. Depending on the nature of your app, you might want to consider one of these embedding options over the other. So there are 3 options that you can put Power Apps into Teams with. The first one is to add a Power App into existing channel as a tab. The second is to add the Power App into your app catalog. So people, when they click on the 3 dots on the access bar, they're able to find your app within the catalog. The third way is for you to pin an app to the app catalog. So instead of having to click the 3 dots, now your app is already pinned. You can also do this on a massive scale by setting Teams admin policies. So why don't we take a look at that from a live demo point of view. So I'm currently in my Teams client. I want to open up a Teams channel, and on top I see my plus button. So this is usually where you would go to add your apps. You could add your Power BI, your OneNote, and your SharePoint. Side note, if you're now adding your Power BI tab, you can also chat alongside your Power BI. But for our purposes, we want to stay with Power Apps. So once I click on Power Apps, I see this list of apps come up. So these apps are the ones that I have access to and the ones that I can add to this channel. So for instance, I want to be able to add a PDF reader. So I could just select this app and click Save. And in a couple seconds, this app is going to load up within my Teams channel. So this method might be the most familiar to everyone in the session right now because you might be used to clicking the add button. But there's one thing to note. So whenever you decided to add a Power App into a Teams channel or IM chat, you have to also pay attention that the app itself is actually shared with these people in your channel. Otherwise, even though you have added this app, people who do not have access would click onto this tab and not be able to interact with this app. So to do that, you have to go to Power Apps portal, select a particular app that you want to share, and go up top, you would see a button for share. So here you're able to type in the person's email that you want to share it with, or perhaps you have a distribution list that you want to share it with. So you could just type it here and the app would be shared with those people. So this is the first way that you can consider when you want to add a Power App into your Teams. This I would usually consider for apps that are more collaborative in nature. So for instance, maybe less so this PDF reader, but maybe more akin to things like new record adding, because my whole team has the need to access those. So it makes sense for me to pin that app in my channel to make it easier for people to find. So that was my first deployment option. The second deployment option is to add the Power Apps to the app catalog. So to do that, we first have to go back to the Power Apps. And now I could select one of my apps. So for instance, ticketing. And now I want to go up to add to Teams. So this is going to download a zip file of the app for me. So I can then upload it into Teams. So once I have this downloaded, I want to go over to my Teams and select Apps. You're going to see Upload a Custom App on the bottom left corner. Now, depending on whether you have admin level access, you might be able to upload only for yourself or for the whole company. Right here, you could see I'm able to upload for my entire company. So I could just select the zip file. It's going to take a couple minutes to load depending on the size of the app, and you're able to see it here. So once it's loaded in, I would just have to click onto it and click add. So for each user that want to access this app, they would have to go to that layout. So either from 3 dots, more apps, or from apps here. You can find this app that you want, click add, and it would show up when you click the 3 dots. So on the 3 dots, you would see this brand new app, ticketing, that I just added. So this is the second way you can deploy an app. You might think of this method of deployment when your app is less collaborative and more useful day to day. So when people need to access it really quickly, it makes sense for you to put it in places that are easier to reach, so on the sidebar. So aside from pinning it under the 3 dots, you also have the ability to actually pin the app. So you could do that actually first by right-clicking the app and clicking pin, but a more useful way, especially when you want to batch deploy your app, is to do it with admin policies. So to do that, we want to first open up our Teams Admin Center. So for those of you who are Teams admin, you should be relatively familiar with this layout. So you want to go down to Teams app, open that up, and you would see setup policies. And here you're able to define who you want this policy to apply to. I want it to apply to everybody, so I just click on global. And down here, you see a table for pinned apps. So if you pay attention to what this is and compare that with what you have over here, you see that they are corresponding. So whatever you decided to pin here is going to actually push up to every person on your tenant, and they're going to have this app pinned to their access bar. So to add a new app to be pinned, you just have to click on Add Apps and search by name. So for instance, I have my PDF reader or some other app. Just type it here and select it and apply this policy. Now this policy is going to take anywhere from instantaneously to 24 hours to be applied. So for interest of time, I've gone ahead and pinned an app. So you could see that the crisis communication app that I just pinned with my Teams policy, I can access immediately from the access bar. I do not have to click the 3 dots. It's always going to be pinned for me here. So that was the third option of how you can deploy a Power App onto your Teams. Another thing that I would like to point out is the responsiveness of your app. So you could see that with this app, my entire app fills the entirety of the screen. But if I go back to my PDF reader, you could see that this design is not responsive, and you could see these gray bars on the side. Now, this might not be optimal for our user experience. So the way you could actually change this is with your app design. So if we open up an app, any Power App, you want to first go to Files, and then Setting, and then under Screen Size and Orientation, you want to go to Advanced Setting, and for Scale to Fit, turn this off. So by turning this off, we're able to enable the responsive design. And after you've done that, you also have to change your design. So a lot of times we'd see for particular components on screen, we have heights and width of a particular number. But now, because we want it to be responsive, we have to change it to parent.width. So this way, when my user open up the app, depending on how big the browser actually is, so if I go back to this app, which is responsive, if I shrink it down, you're able to see that this bar is still here. So it doesn't matter how big it is, it's responsive. And this is because it inherits the property from its parent. So small tip there, but you might want to consider using this to design your apps so they could be responsive to however big or small your window actually is. So that was how to put custom apps into Teams. But now if you have all those teams, all those apps in your teams, you might find yourself too busy to monitor all of those apps at all time. So to help you with it, it's very useful to set up notifications that can flow directly into your team's IM. So Power Automate is going to be the tool to help you do that. As you are defining workflows, you can include actions to post messages or actionable cards into your team's IM or channel. And depending on the user experience that you're going for, you can either choose for that card to be sent by flow, so by this system user, so you could see it on screen here, or you could choose for it to be sent by the user. So when you send it, set for the message to be sent by user, whoever invokes that flow would send this card to you. So depending on the user experience that you're after, you have those options. You're also able to send this either to a chat or to a Teams channel. And for those of you who might not be familiar with Power Automate, before I go to show you what the Power Automate can do, I want to first cover a little bit of the basics of what makes up the Power Automate. So you have triggers. So that's the first block. You then have actions. So those are actions from the 300 or so connectors that we have support for. And then you have logic that you can put actions on. So you can have things like if logics, you can have loop logics, you could have switch logics. And when you put them together, you can begin to have things that are more complex. For instance, things that branch out, and then under that branch, you can then further put them into different branches. So that is what Power Automate is. And to illustrate the power of having cards flow into your chat, I want to illustrate it with a simple case of approvals. Now, for those of us who are familiar with Power Automate, you should have made an approval flow before. It's sort of the hello world for Power Automates. So I want to quickly run this once for you so you could see what it looks like. So for people who have made approval flows before, you should know that the original behavior of approval flow is that it's going to send an email to your Outlook box where you can click approve or reject. And it's also going to, if you have the Power Automate mobile app installed, it's going to prompt a notification for you to reject or approve there. So originally you're going to see a card like this, approve or reject, on your email. But this again is leading us away from, which is where we would see most of the collaboration happen. So if you want to be more focused, you can actually get Flow to send it to Teams. So you could see this card that's coming into my Teams. I can approve and reject just like I would any other. So you could see this card coming into my Teams as the Flow agent, and I can approve or reject within this card. So I could say, we approve and submit. So this is going to be just like any any approval cards. It's when we trace it from Power Automate side, we're able to get the approval results, approve, and also the comments. So we approve, you could see it here. So this is relatively simple. As you could see that we just utilize 3 blocks to enable this action. So I want to walk you through how you can actually make this. So for those of us who have made Power Automate approval flows before, you might be more familiar with start and wait for an approval. This is because usually this method would save us time when we make this approval. But because we now want to insert a posting step in the middle, so we have to use create an approval. So please click create an approval. And after you have created your approval, we want to add an action. And this time we're going to want to use Microsoft Teams connector. So when we click onto that, we want to type in a search for adaptive cards. You will see a couple options come up. Now, these options differ to whether you want the card to go to a user or to a channel, and also whether you want the adaptive card to be sent by the Flow bot or not. So once you've selected the one you want, you would have this, And on the message side, you don't have to do your own formatting. You could just simply, from the dynamic content selector, you could see adaptive card from the create and approval step. So just click onto that and the whole formatting would be done for you. Afterwards, we want to grab the result by introducing wait for an approval action, which is going to take the same approval ID. And then afterwards, we can switch on the outcome. So from this point on, this is going to be just like any other Power Automate workflows. The only step that we've added is the posting adaptive card action. So this is going to enable you to do actions, particularly we see a lot of times approvals on Teams. So I want to also share one more example. So you see the example that of approval that I just made is one that's manually triggered. But we can make this more useful when we actually tie this to triggers such as the Power BI data alert. So you see, I just set a data threshold on my Power BI, and now I'm currently just adding a new data into my data source to quickly demonstrate what it looks like when my data threshold has been exceeded. So my threshold has been exceeded, and immediately I would get messages from Flow. So these could contain actions such as requesting for a budget increase or freezing outstanding requests. The reason why this would be useful is because I can ensure that any actions that I have to take are timely, because whenever this is going to be sent to me whenever the alert has been hit, and I don't have to resort to checking the dashboard every now and then or relying on the threshold email that's going to be sent to me, which the email could fall through my humongous inbox. So this is a way for you to ensure that even within Teams, you're able to have your whole team up to date with what's happening, and they could take timely actions. I would like to expand on this idea because actually the card that you've seen of us doing approvals and rejects from is actually something we call adaptive cards. This is a bigger set of messages that we can send to Teams, which allows for a lot of different types of configurations and layouts. So if we go to adaptivecards.io, which I've opened here, you're able to see a lot of examples. So for instance, I like the look and feel of this one. Then I have the ability to use this one. I might want something else, like for instance, what do I have? Let's see. So for instance, something like this, which might look more simple. So if you find something that you like, you can go ahead and click try it for yourself, and you would be guided towards this adaptive card designer. So you could see here that actually all an adaptive card is simply some JSON. So once you are happy dragging and dropping things onto this adaptive card and defining the properties of those, you can just simply copy and paste whatever is here, the JSON, and you can go back to your Power Automate flow and tick this out. So you could click to delete this message, this adaptive card, which already contains the formatting, and you could replace it with your own JSON object. So this is how you can configure more varieties into the messages that you can receive on Teams. And running along the theme of posting messages, I think the natural progression now would be for us to discuss the possibility of integrating chatbots. Now, there are quite a few chatbots already on Teams, and now you can create your own as well. So Power Virtual Agent is going to let you design your own chatbot in a low-code manner by defining conversation flows. Aside from just answering with text, you can also extend the chatbot's ability by invoking Power Automate workflows or even bot framework skills that a professional developer has written. Similarly to how you would deploy an app, you could also deploy this chatbot to your whole company. So let me show you what it looks like. So to create chatbots, you would go to powerva.com, and this is how you would actually create your chatbot, this low-code process. You would see that this is a lot of blocks stacked together, and they actually define the conversation flow. So let me zoom in and close this out. You can see that I started with a question, and I have some intent. This is for the natural language processing model to know what questions I actually wanted to ask. And based on the answer that my user gave, I'm going to travel along different branches of my conversation. And somewhere down here, you could see this blue icon. This is very familiar. This is the Power Automate icon. So this is the step where I want to invoke a Power Automate workflow to return things to me. This is going to be a way for you to expand the capabilities of your chatbot. And after you have created your chatbot and you're satisfied with its answers and behaviors, you can go and click on Publish. So on Publish, you can go to Channels, and you would see amongst them, there is the channel for Microsoft Teams. This is very simple. It's going to give you an app ID. It's going to take a bit to load, but it's going to give you an app ID. So what you can do now is you're going to open up your Teams. You're again going to go to the three dots, open up App Studio and Manifest Editor, and create a new app. So you could click on Create a New App, and under Bots, you're able to set up and copy paste that ID here. So this way you can connect to this bot. And afterwards, you're able to find that bot by going to Apps and Built For, and you would find your bot. And then, like we did before, you could just click Add. And after you clicked Add, you're able to find it under the three dots. So I'd like to show you a demo of a chatbot that I've made that I think would illustrate my point better. So a lot of times we are dealing with our colleagues would come to us with questions on Teams. But again, sometimes we don't have enough bandwidth to answer them properly. So we can make something like a chatbot. For this case, I built a simple HR chatbot that's simply going to point people to the right URL for their questions. This might not seem like a lot, but when you get a lot of requests, this is going to help you cut down the time of answering them a lot. And also, I'm going to take this further by interfacing with Power Automate. So you see now on screen, my user is feeling quite lost, and she would like for me to create a to-do list for her to follow. So by giving her email, I'm going to invoke the workflow in the backend. So now when I click onto my checklist tab, I can see a brand new checklist bucket created with my name and with tasks created and assigned to me. So as a confused user, I'm able to follow along these tasks and be sure that I've done things properly. So you could see also that in our recording, the user experience that you have with the bot is the same as with any Teams chat. So this should be very easy for people to interact with, and they don't have to leave the Microsoft Teams interface. So hopefully by now you have seen how the different components of the Power Platform can come together with Teams and how you're able to facilitate more enhanced feature while you're collaborating within Microsoft Teams. So from this point onward, I want to thank everybody for staying with me for the past half hour, and I hope that you've started to envision how you can enrich your current Teams experience with these tools. If you have any questions or any ideas, I would love to hear them. Thank you.